I think it's possible the aliens like don't give a shit and aren't checking in. Maybe they're just doing their own thing. Like, isn't it a little self-centered of Earth to be like, oh, they know.
Of course.
The aliens know what's happening with us.
Of course. And you can go further down that rabbit hole saying they know what's going on, but they just don't like where we are right now. And so they're going to wait until we evolve more. This is,
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard that we as a society, our consciousness has not evolved to a level.
We haven't evolved. Right. The aliens are waiting for us to evolve.
Some of us are ready.
Clearly.
And connected with source energy and vibing and own lots of candles like myself, but not everyone is a collective. Some of us are still spending too much time on TikTok. We're not meditating. We're not ready as a collective humanity to receive the messages from aliens.
Correct.
But if we're waiting for everybody, we're going to be waiting a while.
Can't do that. Cannot do that. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Because there's no communism in SETI.
So whether or not aliens already know about us, successfully communicating with them will be difficult. Alien life will not know our languages or understand our culture. I mean, I'm here. I don't even understand our culture. And may even interpret the universe around them differently than we do. The greater challenge of interstellar communication is to establish a common ground for understanding, Vaykoch said. To tackle this, the Goonhilly message will begin with a periodic table of elements. Since the chemical elements are universal, any scientifically knowledgeable aliens should recognize the periodic table. Mehdi argued that content would create common good for the message and then describe some of the environmental challenges we are facing here on Earth. Well, like the aliens have the answer, like they're gonna come down with a carbon machine or something.
Hoover it up, a carbon hoover.
Yeah, a carbon hoover, or like here's a better recycling plant.
Right. Yes. Right.
The TRAPPIST system is 39 light years away, so if anyone there does detect a message, we should not expect to hear a reply for at least 78 years. That's a bummer. I'll be dead by then. However,
maybe not.
You know what? Maybe not. Maybe it'll be like my head will be in a fish tank or something, and I'll have a different body.
It's entirely possible, Chrissy. Entirely possible.
I'll be like Stephen Hawking level. I'll just be like so gross. I'll be mush. Sure. However, the likelihood is not technologically advanced alien life.
You see, you do push buttons. We're like.
It's true.
Brutal. You were brutal. That's brutal.
I sneak it in through humor. That's how I'm most comfortable. And I can be like, it's a joke. Relax.
You need a valve.
Yes, I do. You get me so well. The likelihood that technologically advanced alien life will be far older than we humans, since the universe is 13.8 billion years old. We're just newcomers on the scene. I mean, do you think, first of all, what would you put in a sort of alien time capsule to send?
Led Zeppelin. They're sending these messages. The music that there's also sending messages up, and it's I mean it's good. It's good. Definitely good. We've had other good periods of music throughout our development as a species, but the latest good amount of music was in the 60s and 70s, and this is inarguable. This is science. This is math. We just went through a great period of music. This is the music we should be sending out there.
I think in our time capsule to the aliens, we should also send something from Lizzo's new shapewear line.
Again,
they can know where we're at culturally, and a picture of her with her ass out.
Mm-hmm. I see you on Twitter. I see what you're tweeting.
What else is important? We need to send the aliens all of our pronouns so that they can, we don't want them to trigger anybody, and they have to refer to us correctly.
Well, that will indicate to them that we're on the right track of becoming asexual beings like they are.
Right. That's so true. Look, bodysuits, smoothing out everybody's parts.
What is it? Picture an alien in your head. What does it look like? Is it? I mean, unless you're a sicko, you might picture like, a hot tentacle bitch with boobs or like blue boobs or 10 boobs or something like that. But generally people, when they think of aliens, they picture, like the big head and the big eyes.
The classic
the
gray
bodies. Right, the gray. They picture the grays. And so that fits with where we're going with the whole gender thing.
And if you watch a lot of porn, maybe you're into anime, then yes, you would picture something a
Other
little more
things,
colorful.
right? But generally speaking, we all know that, yeah, I mean, this is my own personal theory now. Now I'm diving deep into my own personal theory about the whole gender thing, which is that it's tied to our evolution into aliens.
Yes, I agree with you. I think like you think about like what would be the point of this? What would be the point of blurring the lines between men and women? I
This is
think
the
one of
point that
the
nobody asks.
yeah,
Everybody's concerned about whether it's right or wrong. Nobody's going,
right.
why? Why
Why?
the hell are we doing this?
Why is this being pushed and who has something to gain from this? And if you follow this to the natural conclusion, who is that good for? And I think definitely a side benefit is encourages people not to have babies, because if you can basically like convince young girls to transition, then you're going to screw them up biologically. You're going to screw up their fertility or whatever their parts. Um, and is it a snap to transition back? No. And I just think too, like obesity is glamorized. I think if you can encourage people to make themselves as unhealthy and as unattractive as possible and make that cool, that will also contribute to people not like getting married, having kids. Like they're gonna be like, ugh, everyone's gross. I'm good by myself. I'll get a cat and I'll just
So you think
chill.
it's a concerted effort to like thin the herd or
I think
not have?
so. I think
That's what you
so.
think?
And I think that's part of it. And I think another, because if you are not joining up, you're not getting married, you're not like finding a ride or die partner. If you're encouraged to stay alone, then you're more reliant on the state. And then the state is your daddy rather than like having a partner or like right how we were all encouraged to break up with our boyfriends or husbands if they voted for Trump. We've been encouraged to not talk to anybody if they, depending on what they feel about the vaccines. We've been encouraged to not talk to anybody. The people who were at January 6th, there have been so many things that we've been encouraged to divide up over into smaller and smaller groups. Uh,
So we don't procreate.
so we don't procreate. I think that's part of it. And I think, yeah, the more
This is
kind of
your theory, not mine. I'm following
no,
along with you.
this is my very like
Scientific.
unintelligent,
No, it's scientific. It's
unscientific.
your scientific thesis.
Encourage people to not populate. Encourage people not to team up in families and create their own communities. If they, the more single you are, the more reliant you are on the government. And right, if they, and then there's the whole Alex Jones like transhumanist agenda rabbit hole. Like the more kind of neutral and less male and female we are, the more kind of androgynous we become. I don't know how that's evolution. I don't understand that.
I'll tell you. So here's the thing with evolution, right?
Right.
And I'm with you 1,000% on all of the things you just said. I question whether or not they can even help themselves at this point of our development because so the thing is that we evolve as a species. We've been evolving as a species from the apes for about 2 to 6 million years. You know, all the action has been in the last 200,000 years or so, right? When we first, developed stone tools. But all the action, whenever we develop a tool that all of a sudden allows us to do something, that's when we evolve. So for instance, when we could knock shit out of a tree, we stopped climbing trees and we stood up a little bit more. When we cooked some food, our faces got a little bit smaller because we didn't have to be all jaw chewing all the food.
No,
This is something that we already know. We already know that when our tools evolve, we physically evolve too. We're pretty damn sure about this at this point. And
our grip is weakened because we don't have to swing on trees.
right, exactly. So this has been going on for millions of years, and our tools have evolved very, very slowly over millions of years. Now, in this day and age, our tools are advancing so fast that we're having trouble keeping up with them. Particularly if you look for in the field of our fertility tools, right? You don't even have to have gender to have a baby anymore. Listen to this. You're going to love this. Ready? There are 8 million people walking around on this planet born from in vitro fertilization in labs.
Right.
8 million people walking around right now that were born in a lab, basically, and then,
Wow, true.
And what we're doing with DNA and CRISPR and all the things.
CRISPR, is that like an air fryer?
Yes. It totally is, except for people.
Okay. You can make
Totally.
anything.
It's
Yeah.
it's this crazy tool where we can like say like, I want genes to do this instead, and you inject it, and the gene and
Wow.
it goes right to the spot you want it to, and and all of a sudden, poof, you've got the thing that you want instead of the thing
Then
it should
why
be.
couldn't they say, I don't know, phase out things like Down syndrome or autism
They do.
or
They do. We are. Autism's a tougher one. But
okay.
Down syndrome, we've got, well, it depends on what we've got mapped, right? But when you have, when you do in vitro, what happens is, they pump the chick full of hormones, and then they harvest her eggs, and then they take the sperm from the dude, and they fertilize the zygotes and make these embryos that are, and they're left with like 10. The couple's got like 10 fertilized embryos in the lab, right? And then they look at them and be like, gosh, this one looks genetically the strongest. And these 3 are the next one. So they take those and they implant them back in the woman, and then that's why there's a lot of twins and shit these
Right.
days too, because they hope one can take, but sometimes more than one takes. But anyway, there's like 5 or 6 freaking babies left on ice in the labs, and
Oh.
there's millions of those in the world too, which
Yeah,
is
what do they do with
crazy.
the ice?
What are they
Ice
doing?
babies?
You want to hear something interesting about censorship? So listen to
Yes.
this. So I've been obsessed with the babies on ice, as I did not
This
coin.
sounds like a new Ice Capades show.
Yes.
I'd watch it.
I didn't even coin the phrase babies on ice. It's a thing. It's a fucking thing. But now, and I used to, like, anytime I was talking about evolution or whatever in my very scientific reports, I'd Google babies on ice for like the latest information to add into the story. I've been doing this for years and years and years. Now when you Google babies on ice, the information that you're served up is so fucking different. It is so different. It's insane because the system, I hate to say they, but they are actually encouraging in vitro fertilization, less sex.
Oh.
But again, I'm not even sure. I don't even know if I blame them. I'm just saying this is where we're at collectively.
Yeah.
We're all doing this together. It's the couple that really wants to have a baby and can't have a baby, and so they go to the lab and they do this, and it just seeps into the fabric of our culture and our society, and that's where we're at today. We no longer have to have gender to reproduce. It's a vestigial tale. It's a fucking vestigial tale at this point. So
Damn.
why wouldn't we be going crazy?
What you're saying is we don't need to express our gender, but it's like you still need eggs, you still need the parts, you still need sperm. So are you saying it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside because if you still have
No, I'm saying it doesn't even need to be an outside.
because we have what enough sperm in all the sperm banks and we have enough
We have enough
eggs
sperm.
in
We
all
have
the
enough
freezers.
eggs.
Aw.
We've already we've already created mice and other organisms in the lab without. We've cloned things. You no longer need a man and a woman. You no longer need an egg and a sperm to make a new thing to procreate.
But the average person can't afford like probably the average person it's the best way to go for them is to just, bang,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yes.
Because they're not going to be like, well, if this doesn't work
It's an
out.
elitist thing. It's for sure an elitist thing, But there's still 8 million of them walking around right now
Wow.
So
Babies
it's
on
crazy.
ice.
Babies
This
on
is
ice. There it
what
is.
doctors don't tell you. Freezing eggs and test tube conception is a marvel of high-tech wizardry, but it carries loads of hidden risks, and there are safer, more natural ways to overcome miscarriage or infertility. This is what I think is funny. The only thing that the single girl used to ask for on ice was Smirnoff. But if Dr. Jillian Lockwood has it her way, it would be a batch of her potential future children.
There you
Oh,
go.
Lordy is passionate about and an advocate of storing your eggs in a deep freezer. And oh wow. Um it should be every dad's graduation present to his daughter. That's kind of weird to me.
It's very weird. And it's happening
Ugh.
so fast, and it's normal. There's 8 million people that were born this way whose parents think it's perfectly normal, and they think it's perfectly normal.
True, because if I weren't able to have a baby the regular way, I would for sure be looking into this, and then everyone can call me a hypocrite. But I'm not saying this is wrong to
Right,
do
right.
or
I'm not
immoral.
exactly. I'm not saying it's wrong either. I'm just saying this is where we're at in our society. So I am not surprised that we're questioning our gender when we no longer need it, because this is what we do as a species. We just keep it moving. We
But I
build
don't.
tools and
So
we keep it moving.
So you think society is trying to evolve culturally along with this? Like we don't need gender to procreate. So you think culture is trying to catch up, or like leftist culture is trying to catch up? Like okay, let's make it so that socially we don't need gender, but like not everyone's on board with that. Like men still looking at feminine women, and women still like looking at masculine men. So it's like you're not going to get everybody on board with this like trans shit. You know,
Right.
people already feel like it's too in your face.
Right. It's causing a lot of strife right now. And
Yeah.
along with, and our tools, this is just in the fertility aspects, but our tools, I mean, we're basically God right now. We're creating with AI, we're creating actual intelligences that live. Where does the internet exist, Chrissy? Where is it? Can you point to
In
it
my
on a map?
phone,
It's
it's
in
in the
your mind.
cloud.
It's in your mind. It's in all of our
Yeah.
collective minds, right? We're creating a universe in our collective minds, and it's doing stuff on its own. So our tools right now are fucking off the chain like they've never been.